I'm John Warnock, President of Adobe Systems, and I'd like to welcome you today to view a tape that we've prepared about Adobe Illustrator. This is a product that we are very, very excited about. It addresses the professional illustration market, and it has a lot of capabilities that you won't find in other programs. The tape is broken into two parts. The first portion is about a 6-minute portion that will show a basic overview of the product. It will show you the various capabilities and features found in the program. The second part of the tape is a tutorial that takes you on a step-by-step process through the use of each of the basic tools. This tutorial should act as a foundation for you getting in and being able to use the product yourself. But before we start, let me show you some of the great examples that some of our early customers have been able to prepare with this product. They show a wide variety of applications, a wide variety of techniques, and a wide variety of the art styles that can be prepared with Adobe Illustrator. Now that you've seen some of the great illustrations some of the early users have done with Illustrator, let me tell you how it basically works. The first thing you do is you prepare a drawing or a sketch of what you had in mind. You can either use a drawing that you've done or a drawing that you've gotten from somewhere else, a clip art file, a newspaper, a magazine. You use one of the scanners that's hooked to an Apple Macintosh. You scan the image into the Macintosh into a Mac Paint format. This image then acts as the background or base art upon which you construct the illustration. Let me show you how this works. This file has been previously done, and it's a picture of a girl's face. What we did is we scanned that picture of a girl's face in on a scanner hooked to the Macintosh, and as you'll see when I show you what the original scanned image looks like, it has a lot of imperfections in it. There are very rough edges, and there are a lot of scanning artifacts that make this an unprofessional looking kind of picture. The whole purpose of Adobe Illustrator is to fix this. We can zoom in on various parts of the picture, and you can see outlines around the background. Those outlines have been put there previously. Now, the nice thing about Illustrator is you can edit these outlines. So you can change curves, you can move points, you can change the direction of a curve at a given point by using the various editing facilities in Illustrator. I'm going to get rid of this outline and show you how outlines are drawn. The basic idea is a tracing model. We lay down curves around the background template, around the scanned image, and essentially outline with curves the eyebrow. This becomes second nature once you learn how to do this. After you've outlined the entire picture, you can see how it's going to look like, what it's going to look like when it's printed. And you can preview it, so to speak. Here you can notice that the image is very clean, the lines are very smooth and crisp. One of the nice things about Illustrator is that you can sort of do both of those the same. I can create a window and make it a half a screen size. Now I'm going to make a duplicate of that window and move it over to the other half of the screen. I'm going to zoom away on this side so I see more of the face. I will then preview that side to see what it's going to look like when it's printed. When I change the eyebrow and move the curves around, you can see that it's moving on both images and that you can see the preview changing as I move the curve. This is a very neat and powerful feature. If I select the entire eye, I can move the eye around and sort of get a Picasso effect in the image. We can undo any operation with Illustrator by using the Edit menu. We've seen just a few of the samples now of the kinds of things that you can work with on one specific image. Now that I've shown you how to manipulate and create a drawing using a background template, I'd like to show you how to create a drawing from scratch using the power tools that are found in the program. These power tools allow us to create art and manipulate it with a high degree of ease. Let's now open a new file. We will indicate that there is no background template. I'm going to use the circle tool to create an ellipse that's going to represent a petal of a flower. Using a rotation tool, I can rotate and duplicate that petal. And I can repeat the process to create a complete layer of petals. I can select this whole group and rotate it again, creating a second layer of petals. Now, using the circle tool again, I can create the center of the flower. Selecting all of these, I can then paint them any shade of color, filling the centers and outlining them with any shade of gray for the lines. I can tilt the flower to look like it's being viewed from the side. And I can make a copy of it as though it were being passed through a mirror. And move that mirror image into place. Taking another copy, I can move it in front. Now I'll straighten it out to make it appear as though it's facing more head-on. We've created a little clump of flower tops. Now let's build the stems. I'm building a single long line, which I'm going to duplicate and move slightly. Those are the two sides of the stem. Because the stem is open, I'm going to close them off to make it an area which I can fill. Now I'm going to use that mirror tool again to make another stem for the flower on the other side. Because it's selected, I can just move it into position, making it match so that it's in the center. Now all I have to do is build one more stem. Create a curve, duplicate it by just slightly pulling it off to the side, using the pen tool to close off the end so it can be filled properly. And we've got the three stems. Now we'll use the pen tool to do some freehand drawing. We're going to start creating a leaf. This leaf has a bunch of lobes on it, and we'll really create just one half of the leaf. So I'm using the pen tool to sort of make a freehand drawing. I've got one half, and I'll go back to our familiar mirroring tool to make the other half. And I'll jockey this back and forth so it looks right. Now I need to join those two ends, and so I'll do that. I'm going to scale the leaf using a scale tool to modify its shape so that it's more aesthetically pleasing. This is a very powerful tool for making a number of different shapes and modifying those shapes. I'm using a rotation tool now to rotate one leaf into position. Using the rotation tool again to rotate a second copy of that leaf. And I'm using it a third time to make a third copy of the leaf. Since I want to shade the leaves and the stems separately, I will select all the leaves and the stems. I will then go up to the Style menu and pick the Paint dialog box. I'm going to fill the leaves with a darker shade of gray and continue to outline in black. I'm also going to cut the stems and the leaves away and paste them behind the flowers so that they will appear to be behind the flowers. Now when I preview, you will see the completed image as though it would appear if it were printed. Isn't that great? Let's continue on. We're now going to take the text tool and insert some text at the bottom. We can change type style, we can change size, and we can change the text content. So I'm typing the word daisy, indicating that it should be centered on the point that I specified. Oops, it's too small. Let's go back. I'm going to change the size of the type to 36 points, 3 times as big, and change the leading. If I do not like this size, I can always go to the scale tool and make the daisies larger. This gives you a very, very flexible scheme for changing the size of type. Now we can see what the final image is going to look like. Isn't that great? Now that I've shown you some of the basic tools found in Illustrator, I'd like to conclude this demonstration by showing you some artwork that has been prepared by some of our users. This artwork is really spectacular stuff, and I think it demonstrates why Adobe Illustrator is different from other illustration programs. Now's the time for you to learn how to use Adobe Illustrator. The next section of the tape will take you in a step-by-step process through each of the tools. When you're through, we hope that you will have as much fun using Adobe Illustrator as we've had in producing the program. Good luck. First thing we need to do is launch the program. We go up and double-click the Adobe Illustrator icon. Now we need to open a template. So we pull down the File menu and let up on the Open. We'll now open up a folder that has 2 templates. A simple paths template is the first one we'll select. This background now comes up on the screen. We use the hand icon to position the curves so they're convenient to use. We use the magnifying glass tool to zoom in so that we can see the curve more clearly. The pen tool is the basic drawing instrument. Notice that it starts out as an X. We click and we drag. This basic motion is fundamental in Illustrator. We press down and we pull in the direction of the curve. This establishes a direction line that is tangent at the curve at the point we place down. The point we place down is called an anchor point. We can adjust this direction to match the direction of the curve. We now take a single hump and we press and pull again and watch the curve change until it matches the template. This is the basic curve construction technique in Illustrator. To modify a curve, we use the Select tool. We can pull down on a part of the curve itself and change its shape there, keeping the directions the same. We can press down on an anchor point and drag it around, modifying where any of the anchor points are positioned. Or we can go to the other end and use the other anchor point. The third way of editing a curve is to use the direction points at the end of the direction lines. That changes the slope of the curve at the anchor point. By modifying these direction lines, we have the opportunity to change the way the direction of the curve goes from the beginning to the end of the line segment. Finishing this curve, we will now position using the scroll bars to the next set of curves. Here we will use the Option key on the magnifying glass to back away from the drawing. Use the Hand tool again to position ourselves on the screen. Now, using the basic Pen tool, we will again click and drag in the direction of the curve. Go over sort of one single hump, click and drag again. Go through one single hump, press and drag to get the curve to fit the way we want it. This takes a little practice, but you get good at it after a while. Here we press and drag. Notice that the direction lines are tangent to the curve at the anchor points. We'll now finish off the curve. Oops. Notice that when we go off the screen, the program automatically adjusts the view on the screen so that the cursor will remain on the screen surface. We'll now go down to the next set, which is a fairly simple set of straight lines. Straight lines are easy to do in Illustrator. We go to the Pen tool, and we merely click. Rather than pressing and dragging, we just click on the endpoints. So we click, we click, we click again. Here there's a problem because I wanted that line to be horizontal, but you'll notice that it's not. It has stair steps in it. I'm going to finish off this and then hit backspace twice to get rid of this curve so that I can redo it. I'm going back to the Pen tool. Now when I click, I will hold down the Shift key on this section to make sure that the line is horizontal. The Shift key constrains to horizontal and vertical and 45-degree angle lines. This is a very useful tool. The next set is a fairly we have a curved section followed by a horizontal straight section followed by curved sections, etc. Oops, I've made a mistake. Let me explain what's happened here. Notice that the cursor is a cross as opposed to an X. That means what I've done is I've completed the last template, and rather than going back and clicking the Pen tool to start a new template, I've just inadvertently continued to build on to the last path. To remedy this situation, what I'm going to do is undo the last operation. I will hit backspace, which will eliminate it. Now I will click the pen, and now I've got a cross. To continue, I press and drag to start the curve. I press and drag again, and now what I'm going to do is indicate that I've got a corner point between the curve segment and the straight line segment. What I have to do with the pen at this stage is to press down again on the last anchor point while holding the Option key. That pressing the Option key and clicking on the anchor point will establish the beginning of a straight line. So I click, now I come across and click again while holding the Shift key. That establishes a straight line. Holding the Option key and dragging establishes a new direction line. Clicking and dragging again. Hold the Option key, hold the Shift key, click and drag. Now hold the Option key again, click and drag. This establishes the discontinuities between the straight and curved lines. We now have completed this rather difficult set of curves. To do the last set, we click and drag in the same manner as we have done before, establishing direction points, clicking and dragging. Now holding the Option key and re-clicking the anchor point, we can establish a new direction between the two curves. This produces the sharp points between the curves, the corner points. Here we click and drag while holding the Option key, indicating to the program that new directions are to be established at each of these lines. To see all of our work, we can now double-click the Hand tool and it will show us the full page with all of our templates. We're now going to try a real example. I'm going to open up a drawing of an apple that we have done before. So I will go and open the apple template. The apple will start out its life as a pencil drawing. I'll position it in to the screen where I can see it. Now using the pen tool, we will start to just lay down lines by clicking and dragging and going around the outline of the apple. Just like the template drawings, in that we're matching the curves with the background template. As we lose position here, we can use the space bar to change to the Hand tool without going back to the menu. We continue around to a piece of detail here where we need to magnify. So we'll magnify that, go to the Pen tool, and continue. To indicate the corners here, we push down on the Option key to establish new directions. Here we're indicating corners by using the Option key and re-dragging on the anchor point. We need now to back away from the image using the Option key on the magnifying glass to get the apple into position. We now continue with the Pen tool. To close a path, we have to click within 2 pixels of the previous thing. And notice that to make this nice and continuous, both the first curve and the last curve of the path change. When we preview this, we notice the curve is filled with black. That's not what we want. So we go to the Style and use the Paint menu. The Paint menu says that now we can fill it with 30% gray, the apple, and we're going to outline it in black. We will use a line width of 1/2 point. A point is a 72nd of an inch. The line styles here are various options we have, but we'll leave them alone. Now when we preview, we can see that the apple is nicely outlined and filled with gray. Going back to the artwork, we now position it on the screen so we can see it. To start the stem, we press, drag, press and drag. To indicate the corner, we use the Option key to start a new direction. To go around the top of the stem, we have 2 corners there, so we've used the Option key twice. This is a good size to work as going around the smooth parts of the leaf. When we get to the small corners on the top of the leaf, I'll want to zoom in. Positioning using the space bar to get to the Hand tool. Now, in this section, each curve is connected by a corner point, so all I need to do is hold the Option key while constructing these sections of curves. So I'm holding the Option key down and just constructing small sections of curves. It's not too important that these be exactly right because it's easy to go back later and edit them at any magnification so that you can see precisely how you want them. The most important thing is to get the structure of the curves correct at this point. I'll just continue around the leaf. Now we're smooth again, so I've let up on the Option key to keep the curves smooth between their joins. I use the Hand tool to adjust the picture on the screen. I come around, and now to finish the base, since this is going to be filled, I'll close off the curve by double-clicking on the first point of the stem. When I preview this, it's the same coloring that we've used last time, and so I don't really want to do that. What I'll do is come back and I'll fill the leaf with white and leave the outline in black. This will give some contrast between the apple and the leaf. That's nice. Now to finish the apple, we just have 2 lines. A little dimple here, which we just press and drag. Since this is a simple straight line, or a simple line that doesn't need to be filled, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up and I'm going to set the paint to indicate that it's not to be filled, only outlined. First I'll match the bottom of the stem to that curve. Magnifying greatly, we'll go in here and move those endpoints of the stem so that they match the curve on the dimple. Change the direction lines so that all of this matches. This will make a cleaner drawing. To finish, I only need the little curve at the top of the stem, so I just draw that. Since the drawing mode has no fill in it, this is correct for that portion of the curve. To verify that everything's okay, what I'll do is I'll preview. Now, let's go back to the artwork and template and do some last-minute editing on the leaf. So I'll get it into position and I'll zoom in on the leaf. Now I'm going to pick up the select tool and go change some of those little corners so that they more carefully match the template that's underlying them. You'll notice that the editing is quite powerful here because I can use the marquee and select all of the points. When points are selected, they're black. I move the selected points around and you'll notice that they stay hooked to the leaf. This is a powerful way of editing. I can also grab individual points on the leaf and move those around. This just gives you some of the editing power that's found in the Illustrator. Let's go on to some of the more advanced tools. I'm going to select all of the points in the apple. Now, by grabbing any part of the apple, I can drag it around the screen. You'll notice that the old image stays there until I let up. If I let up away from the template gets in the way of the image, and so I will check artwork only to remove the template. By holding the Option key down while clicking the select item, I can bring up a dialog box that allows me to move a specific distance. Clicking vertical move and typing in 72 points, which is exactly an inch, you will notice that the apple will hop 1 inch up on the screen. This allows for precise horizontal and vertical motion. The scale tool, the rotation tool, the reflection tool, and the shear tool provide basic transformations on the apple. Click an origin and drag, scaling the apple in X and Y. Now here they're being scaled in a non-uniform way. By holding down the Shift key, I can allow the apple to be scaled in a uniform way in both X and Y. Just dragging around the apple gives you a great deal of flexibility. The rotation tool, the origin specifies the axis about which you're rotating, the point about which you're rotating. So I drag around and you'll notice the apple will rotate about that point. If I click in the corner here, you'll notice that the apple will rotate about that point. So this is a very flexible tool for rotating either complete objects or parts of objects. Let's zoom in and let's select a portion of the leaf. I use the marquee to get most of the points. I then use the Shift button to extend the selection to get the rest of the leaf. Using the rotation tool, I select the base of the leaf as the origin of the rotation. This allows me to wiggle the leaf on its stem. Using the scale tool, I can make the leaf larger or smaller relative to the rest of the apple. This is a very powerful tool for modifying and changing shapes. I'm now going to select the entire apple again. Here, I can specify a specific rotation by holding down the Option key when I press the origin. Now a rotation angle can be typed in, and when I click OK, the apple will rotate precisely 15 degrees. I can undo any operation at any time with the Undo command. The reflection tool is really interesting. I'm going to select the leaf and the stem of the apple. And what I want to do with this reflection tool is create a mirror image of this. In other words, flop it so that the leaf is on the other side. By putting the origin at the base of the stem, and clicking, I specify an axis and reflect this leaf and stem around that axis. I can then change it back if I don't like it. By selecting all of the items and using the shear tool, I can establish a base for the shear, another origin, along which you push the apple over as though it's in a windstorm. The model here is by moving back and forth, you can create a slanting effect on any object. Now I'll put some text in the image. Take the text tool and click to find the origin of the text. You select the size of the text by typing 36 points in this case. The leading is the space between baselines of text. I'm clicking center to center the text, and I'm typing the word apple in the text block. Here, apple now appears below the picture of the apple. I can use any of the transformation tools on the text. The scale tool will change the shape and size of the apple word. The rotation tool, specifying an origin, will allow me to rotate the text about any point. This is a very powerful feature. I can pick up the apple word and move it around the screen to my heart's content. We'll leave the apple slightly below where it was. We can also paint the text any colors. I can fill it with white and outline it with black. I'll use a half a point again here. Now in artwork mode you can't see it, but in preview mode you can see the text outlined. Going back to artwork only, we can now add other features. I'm going to put a rectangle about the picture of the apple. Normally rectangles go from corner to corner, so if I start another rectangle from the center, it's the wrong thing. Holding the Option key allows me to go from center to corner, which gets nice uniform borders. If I preview this, I put those rectangles in front of the apple. What I want to do now is fix that situation. I'll select the rectangles, I'll cut them, and I'll paste them behind everything, paste them in back of the apple. Now when I preview, you can see the apple come up in front of the borders. We've completed our image now, and now I think you have a good appreciation for what the Adobe Illustrator can do.